Ladies and gentlemen, producer and director Leslie McCleave.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I'll moderate, and you can also tweet questions with the hashtag SBFF. Are there any questions for Leslie? No? Yes, right here. The question was, how did you meet the Blind Boys, and what got you into the music or into this project?
I've always been a big music fan of all types, but gospel was not one of the types of music that I was familiar with in any kind of really close way. But a friend of mine that I'd gone to film school with recommended that I go see the Blind Boys of Alabama. They were playing at a rock club in New York with Robert Randolph, who did Sacred Pedal Steel. So I went, and they came out, like they come out in the suits, moving very slowly, hands on each other's shoulders. So I thought, oh, this is going to be this kind of like sit-down, classy Americana show. And by the end, Jimmy's out in the audience, and everyone's dancing and jumping up and down. And it was just such an amazing, moving experience. So I did a little research on them. And their story, they sort of started with adversarial situations, and they just constantly found ways around it. But it was a very capsule story. It was so I kept thinking there has to be more to it, and there wasn't a film about them. So I just sort of approached them out of the blue and started following them around.
How long did it take for you to complete the film?
It actually, I shot for 10 years, which was not my plan. Obviously, I did a lot of stuff in between. But that happens sometimes in documentaries where, you think it's going to be one thing, and then the subjects just keep doing interesting things. And also you have to finance it, and money comes, and you shoot, and then money goes away, and then you get more money, and then you shoot again. So then it became, trying to figure out what the ending would be. And I felt like when Clarence had to retire from touring, he wanted the band to continue on, his legacy to continue, but then the fact that they could continue on without him, I think, is a little bit like the Old Lion having a difficult time with that. So that seemed like a good place to end at the Lifetime Achievement Awards, and then that they go and get another Grammy, and then they've continued on again, for years. You can still go see them. They're playing. In fact, I wanted to see if some of the guys could come tonight, but they actually are in Colorado. They just went back out on tour, so they're still around, still performing.
What were some of the challenges working with the blind?
They were, no challenges working with them. They were great. It was just more the typical things that you get with documentary, which is just financing, fundraising, getting the money and getting it out there. Humanities documentaries like this have a harder time. There was actually just an article in the New York Times about that, which I was encouraged to see, because it's something I've been saying. But, the kind of granting agencies that fund docs, right now it's more, they tend to be more interested in social justice stuff, which I am too, but that didn't happen to be the type of film this was. So it's actually, even though they're very, I think with music docs, and I'm a big fan of them, everyone's always happy that you made it, and they have great longevity, because, things change, especially with older musicians. They won't be around forever. But yeah, for whatever reason, they're hard to get made. So that was the main challenge. But the guys were great.
We have a question from Twitter. Did you do the filming at Mr. Scott's funeral?
Cynthia Wade. We were two cameras. So Cynthia Wade, Oscar winner, documentary filmmaker who made Freehold, was one of the camera women, and I was the other. Right here?
What's the distribution of your film?
That's where we're at now, is looking for distribution. We've been going on the festival circuit for a little over a year, and we're still happy to do that, and this is a great way to audience build. And we'd love to keep you guys as audience members, so we have a website, howsweetthesoundmovie.com, and a Facebook page, and that's a good way to find out where we're going to go. But that's who we're talking to now, is distributors, and wanting it to get out and have a ongoing life, and you guys get to be the first audiences. Oh, sorry.
The question was, have they benefited financially from singing and touring?
Well, a couple things. One is, how many people here knew about them before coming tonight? So they're really well known as musicians, but they do. They're very egalitarian, in terms of how the guys who were the founding members were very fair with sharing, finances with the guys who were the sighted musicians and the people who played instruments as well, which came later, and then. I think part of the reason that they still work is not so much necessarily because they have to, but because what I saw, even when I saw them, so many years ago, they get so much energy from doing it. And so, like Clarence would definitely still be out there if he didn't have the kidney issues from diabetes. So Jimmy's comment that, I think either Jimmy or Clarence says, we'll keep going until God tells us it's enough. And I think that's, just very inspiring to me that they get so much energy from touring and just, from the audiences.
Yeah. How has the documentary been received in the African American community?
So far, everyone has liked it. And I do want to have this idea of doing a tour. The original Black Gospel Circuit that the guys started on, that's part of our outreach, that I want to take the film back down south. Once you're done with your festival run, because you have to, premiere at certain markets and festivals. But then, we played a lot in the south at a lot of southern film festivals. But that was one of my ideas. And we've also done senior centers where the film's been really well received, because it's very empowering to me how great these guys are and how they keep going and going. So far so good. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, have you considered approaching PBS, public television?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of our strategies, yeah.
Yes.
If anybody knows anybody, please come see me after and put in a good word for us. Oh, great, I'll check that out. Because we played the Honolulu African American Film Festival in February and March, and those were great screenings, great museum screenings. And then the guys were actually, they'd played in Hawaii years ago, but not recently. And the Blue Note now has a Blue Note Honolulu, so they were out there just after we screened. In February, they were on their way to Australia. So it was really great to be able to have these 3 screenings. I only went for one of them, but and say like people could, Honolulu audiences could actually go see them. Yeah, they really get around.
How did you come up with the organizational structure of the film, and did it change during editing?
I always had this idea. I guess originally I started interviewing some, other musicians that they'd collaborated with and musicologists, and everyone was just really complimentary, so there wasn't much drama there. So I stuck with my original idea, which was just to have the guys and their intimates, family members, friends tell the story. And so I wanted to be able to see what life was like on the road with them, because they have this, especially when I started with them, this crazy tour schedule where they were playing, just so many dates and flying all over the world constantly, and just what that's like, a working band, plus then they would tell us their history. But I think one of the things that happened by shooting for such a long period of time, unintentionally, was that, we just got to know them so much better. And so I think the film was deeper for that. It got really wonderful. They were just very welcoming and letting us into their lives.
We'll do 2 more questions over here. How many original members are still in the group, and do they have plans on replacing themselves?
That's a great question. So that was one of the central questions, I think, of when you're asking about the organizing principle. After George died, which is very early in the process, I just thought, well, that's it. They'll probably disband, because Clarence, Jimmy, and George were all in the band when I met them. And then Bishop Billy Bowers came back and started, and he'd been in the group a long time ago, and he started singing with them. It was so powerful, and it was different. And then when Clarence had to retire, I was like, well, then they probably won't continue on. And then they found a way to continue on from there. So right now, of the 3 guys that were singing when I met them, Jimmy is still, now he's the lead singer. So you see a lot of stuff from Lincoln Center, which was 2010. Jimmy sings. And Johnny Fields, we had Alzheimer's. He's passed away now, as you saw in the In Memoriam. But Johnny's wife, Maddie, was sort of like the surrogate of, telling us that part of the story. So Johnny was still a big part of the story as well. So Clarence is still with us, and he still contributes tracks from Baton Rouge, and will record. And then Jimmy's out on the road, as the main singer. And I don't know what happens in the future. Part of why I wanted to include Ben Moore's story about how he got in the group was just to I was sort of curious about this, how a legacy band continues. Where do people come from? And I just liked his story because the original guys lost their sight, either at birth or very soon after. And so that was like a different experience with blindness than some of the, younger guys like Ben, who was 70, who had glaucoma, and Ricky McKinney as well as the drummer, who's been with them, and he also lost his sight through glaucoma.
How much did you have to travel with them and where to do the shooting?
So I guess you can guess where I live. I live in Brooklyn, so it was, again, financing is always just an issue with docs, and so it was easier to shoot them when they were in our hometown. But the first thing we shot was actually the opening that you see at the Peter Gabriel concert. That was the last night of that tour. They opened for him on the Up tour, and he hadn't been on tour in like 9 years at that point. So I saw the Madison Square Garden show, and then we just sort of gotten permission to start the film, and I said, can we go to Seattle and shoot? And so we did that first. So yeah, we traveled around a bit, mainly in the South, mainly in the US. I wanted to go to overseas with them, and then it just never really worked out. So there's a lot of stuff from the East Coast, because that's where we live.
Ladies and gentlemen, producer-director Leslie McLeave, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for coming. Oh, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
There's 2 great films on today, so Saturday's amazing, so I hope you can stay for the 7 o'clock screening and the 9 o'clock screening.